Welcome back to episode 30 of the Triathlon Preview Show. We're here for another great weekend of racing.
Hello.
So this weekend we have a full lineup of races from short course, draft legal to non-draft to Ironman distance, 70.3 distance too. So we have a lot of races going on this weekend.
Yep, the season is officially in full swing.
Yeah, we also got we'll have 2 fantasy contests up. We already have the Ironmans up right now. That contest is up and rolling, and then we'll have the ITU race up later. Thursday. We'll say it'll be up Thursday.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Leeds right now, but there's not as many competitors, I guess, on both sides.
Yeah, so let's roll into that real fast with ITU WTS Leeds. Wood, you said you talked to somebody over there, so let's give a little information about that, Emily.
Yeah, so I just Facebooked with Sarah McClarty, who's there doing some work for Team USA, and I asked about the bike course because I couldn't get a feel from the ITU website whether it was hilly or not, but she said it's rolling hills and it's 41.5 kilometers, so a little bit over 40 Ks. And I checked the weather and it looks like it's going to be kind of typical English weather. It's going to be rainy and kind of cool, like 50s to start in the morning and then warming up into the 60s. So kind of what the Great Britain athletes are used to.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that the start list is a little only 34 females on the start list. We'll obviously start with the females, but it doesn't mean it's lacking the firepower. I mean, we have Flora Duffy taking the number 1 bib, but then all along from there, you got Jody Stimson, Gwynn, Sarah True's down the list, Vicky Holland's back, non-Stanford. So definitely a lot of Olympic qualifiers on the list.
Yeah, and one non-Olympic qualifier from Great Britain who I just listened to an interview with Jody Stimson, and she is, going full on for the World Series because she didn't make the Olympic team. So it'd be interesting to see her kind of race against 2 of the gals that did make the team. I mean, they made it fair and square, filled the criteria and everything. So she's not bitter, but she is lining up at home against Nan and Vicky, and she wants to do well in the series because it's a good moneymaker and it's just a good goal to have now that the Olympics is not on the table for her.
Yeah, I think this is a prime opportunity for her to take advantage of an Olympic year. She's obviously one of the best athletes that is not going to the Olympics. So she's already got a good amount of points, and she's at home. And, wouldn't it be nice for her to beat 2 other Olympians that, from her country that they're on the team and she's not? I'm sure deep down that she would like to do that.
Yeah, I think so. Just kind of like prove it to herself, prove it to everyone. And she's raced well kind of in her own country before. She won the Commonwealth Games in 2014. So I think she'll be ready to go. And the Olympic gals like Nan and Vicky, like I'm sure they're very fit and they're excited to race from home, but they might be in kind of different stages of their buildup. They don't need to be like super, super fit right now. I'm sure they're very fit, but they're not going to be maybe quite as sharp as they would be, in August. So we'll see how that goes. And, like someone like Charlotte McShane as well, she was left off the Australian team. So she's probably, after her 5th place finish in Yokohama, like she might kind of want to get out there and make a point, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean it's a smaller list, so we could see some breaks, we could see some smaller groups. A couple seconds in the swim between 2 people could be a bigger influence on this race with only 34 athletes rather than when you have 50 athletes and you have more athletes to pull you back and stuff like that. So we'll see how the smaller start list plays into the dynamics of the race this weekend.
Yeah, and that is kind of a preview for the Olympics because the Olympic has a smaller start list than most of the WTS races at only 55 athletes. So it does change the dynamics. And 34, I mean, that's really small. People are probably taking their breaks after the Olympic qualifying and just kind of getting ready for a big push into August. So I think Yeah, 34 people is going to make a difference. You're just not going to have as many people to work with. The groups won't be as big. So maybe, there could be a break, and people are always motivated. Like they might want to try to see, okay, let's see if we can drop Gwen Jorgensen. Let's see if we can expose a place where we could do this in Rio. Like Sarah True might be like, all right, let's kind of suss this out a little bit.
Yeah,
And with some rolling hills, like that helps.
yeah, you bring up actually Sarah True. I want to talk about her for a sec. I feel like she's had a slower start to the season. She's obviously switched coaches, so I would look for her to maybe start seeing some sparks from her to see if she can maybe get into that groove. And obviously she's preparing for only one race and one race that matters, but I just feel like you want to have a good race before the Olympics.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you want to have like some confidence building races and see that speed start to come and that power on the bike, and just start to see yourself sharpen up. So I would hope that, here, and maybe she'll race Hamburg next. See, I would like to see some stuff from her. I mean, she's been on the podium many times, so maybe this is a place to do it. Although I think it might be tough. Like I think like the Great Britain athletes could, like, I don't know, Gwen will probably win, but the rest of the podium could be Great Britain.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be very interesting because there's a small U.S. There's only two U.S. athletes, Gwen and Sarah. Usually they fill their start list. You know what? I think they're allowed to have six or something. They
Yeah.
usually fill them up all the time. I mean, Great Britain has three of the best athletes this year racing. Vicky and Nan and Jody. But Flora Duffy's also racing, and she's got that number one bib this race. And it'll be interesting to see if she and a couple other athletes can make a break on the bike and get away from Gwen. Um, Gwen hasn't lost an Olympic, right? So in a long
No, she
time.
lost to Helen Jenkins at the Gold Coast.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I thought that was
Yeah, because that was Flora, Andrea Hewitt, and Helen Jenkins off the bike near the front at Gold Coast on that kind of more technical course. So, this could be a nice little test to see. I mean, Andrea Hewitt's on the list too. So there's some people willing to work, and with a smaller field, they might have an opportunity.
All right. Let's move on to the men's list.
Which is only 46, which is small as well.
Yes, small, but still bigger than the men or the women. But yeah, not as big as it usually is. This will be the first time that both Brownlees and Gomez are racing again in a long time. I think this is the first WTS race for Gomez this year, correct? Or did he race at the very?
Yeah. Yeah, he did like that European one, like the
Yeah.
European Championships. He won that. But this is his first WTS. And interestingly, Vincent Louis was on the start list and now he's off. So I'm wondering like what's going on there, like how serious his injury is.
Yeah, that's it's interesting to see. I mean, talking about injuries, I mean, how bad his injury is, and then you just saw Richard Murray win the duathlon championship. That he's feeling great. It looks like, and he's only what couple month or so out from his injury.
Yeah, like 6 weeks, wasn't Gold Coast like middle of April or so. So I mean he's definitely getting back into fitness, and I saw on Instagram Richard Murray's back in the pool. So I think he'll be ready for the Olympics. But back to this one, speaking of injury and getting ready for the Olympics, Alistair Brownlee wasn't so great in Gold Coast. So I'm how his progress is going, and whether he is able to run a bit better.
Yeah, it should be interesting because they're at home, and the heat will not be as affecting. You saw that with Jonathan at
Oh man, yeah.
the other race. So you definitely maybe they're more used to this training conditions because it's where they train and live. So
Yeah, I mean, if it rains and it's kind of cool, like you gotta think that the Brownlees are gonna just revel in that, and they're always like pushing the front of the bike, but they'll be pushing it even more. And they have their training partner, Richard Varga, will probably be out in front on the swim per usual. So um, they'll have I think they'll have people up front with them who are willing to push it. And Javier is always there. So Aaron Royal, I wonder, he's probably starting to kind of come around. Um, it'll be a good. I think it'll be a good race.
Yeah, definitely should be. I mean, the other person I'm interested to see is Vincent Hernandez, because he got did he get left off? No, who got left off?
Yeah,
He got left off,
Alarza
right?
made it.
Yeah.
Alarza made it. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. Lars is not racing. Hernandez is. It'll be just interesting to see how these people react after being left off the team. And I mean, obviously they were probably better than some of the others that made it from different countries, but
Mhm.
they met their quota of 3, and somebody had to get left off.
Yeah, when I was listening to the Simpson interview, they're saying like if she was on the list, she would be kind of like in there for she could be considered for a medal, but Great Britain only getting 3, and they're like they do wild cards for developing nations, like how come they don't do wild cards for stuff like this? Which, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, like you want to give these other nations the opportunity to build their programs, and then they'll have medal contenders eventually. So
Yeah.
I get it, but it kind of stinks, especially like if you come from Spain or Great Britain or the United States. I mean, there's only so many slots.
Yep. I mean, it's how it is, and everybody knows it. So they try to do they fight for those 3 spots or the 2 spots if the country only has 2. So,
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think Alistair is going to be in pretty good shape, or do you think his run is still going to be a bit off after the Achilles surgery in the fall?
no, I think he's still going to be a bit off. I think that they're going to try to push the bike harder than normal to try to get not harder than normal because they always try to push it, but just push the bike harder so maybe they can get a lead off. Talking about Alistair and Jonathan, whoever else wants to go with them, Varga, whoever else, even Gomez, but just to give maybe a little more lead so Alistair maybe doesn't fall back as far. But I think, yeah, on the run, I think he is waiting for his day, his one day, right? He's one of the greatest one day athletes ever.
Yep, he can
So,
do that. We've seen it at grand finales all the time. Another person that will be interesting, like Yokohama, he did really well. Remember Christian Bloomfeld? And everybody's like, he's running way too hard. Why is he staying with Mola? And he hung in there for second place. So I'm how he does. If it rains, is cooler. It's good for kind of a bigger guy. So like to see how he does off his first WTS podium. Like, can he back it up and be in the top 10 again? Be vying for a podium. So he'll be out in front. And you're on the bike. So
all right. Well, let's move away from the draft legal side to California. We have Escape from Alcatraz, where we have a lot of the ITU racers actually taking part in this race. So, you've raced this a bunch of times, so let's give us a little information on the course. Obviously, the course is one of the most exciting courses for a triathlon.
yeah, so I've raced it 9 times, which is crazy. But you got your cold water, start off the boat. It's wavy, it's choppy. Really know where the hell you're going. You just kind of swim towards shore and hope you end up at the right place. And then a little bit of a run from the swim to your bike. They call it a warm up run, which they put in there because everybody was freezing straight out of the water. So like, oh, we'll make them run a little bit, so they warm up, which is smart. Onto the bike, and it's just a bunch of kind of hill repeats and descents, and then definitely some technical sections. So people can make up and lose time. And then the run is on trails, up, down, down trails, onto the beach, deep sand, up the sand ladder, and back. So it's got everything. It's a strength course, and so it takes a little bit of speed away from, like, someone like Joe Malloy, who's really trained for speed right now. I mean, he'll do well because he's strong, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of because of the strength aspects, it lessens the speed a teeny bit. Do you know what I'm saying? I might.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a stronger man's course. But last year we saw it you always need the little bit of speed to come across with the win. As I think everybody remembers last year, Eric beat Andy Potts for the win in the shoot with the sprint. So you do have to have some speed.
Yeah, I think this year is pretty cool actually, because you have, Josh Amberger, who led everybody out of the water by like a minute last year. He took kind of an unconventional line and didn't swim with the group, and it was a smart move. And he had the lead onto the run, and I think he's going to be challenged a bit more this year. You got Ben Canute, you've got Cam Dye, you've got
You got Andy Potts, you got Tommy Zafiris, all amazing swimmers.
right.
So it'll be interesting if maybe I think people were following Andy last year possibly because he knows the swim, and maybe Josh took that, he took that line. I wonder if more people will attempt to take that line. Do the currents change a lot, or is it kind of the same current every year?
Well, they always make sure that it's on an outflow. So the current, if you're looking at the water, it flows from left to right. So it's flowing out underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. So it's like you're swimming across a river and finish right. But if you aim too far to the right, you might overshoot the beach, and then you have to swim back against the current to end up on the beach. So I think what happened is last year Josh went a little more right than everybody else, and it just worked. And he's also a really good swimmer, so he might have just been able to drop everybody anyway. But I think you're gonna have a big group, and I think Josh Amber, he focused on Ironman this spring, so I'm wondering, like, has he lost a little bit of that firepower? Are people like Joe Malloy, who've been on this shorter course stuff, like, are they going to have be a little bit sharper? Like Andy Potts, like, he withdrew from New Orleans and then he withdrew from Texas, so tells me maybe he was injured. Like, what's going on there? So I just don't know. Cam Dye just won Rev 3 in Quasi, an Olympic distance. He loves the Olympic distance. It's kind of his wheelhouse. I mean, Ben Canute is one of the best swimmer bikers in the world, so I think to see him out front will be pretty exciting as well, because that he's not afraid to do that. So I think going onto the run, you might have I don't think Potts will be in the lead, and I'm wondering if he can run his way up. Sorry, Andy.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, you talk about Tommy Zafiris, Joe Malloy, Eric Langerstorm, Ben Canute. Those are all ITU guys, basically. And usually at this race, you might get one ITU guy, maybe two. This year, they've put a good start list together to add some of those shorter course specialists into the mix, where it used to be all 70.3 Ironman people doing this race. It seems like to me, I feel like the race is a lot more younger, faster guys.
Well, I think in the last couple of years, like, these guys have been off having to do the WTS series, so they really couldn't fit it into their schedule. But this kind of fell at a good time after the Olympic qualifying was over, and it's just a good, fun race. And I mean, it's a 2-hour race, and it's just a good kind of, not training day, but like, it just fits in. And I'm worried a little bit about Eric Lagerstrom, just because he's only been running outside, I guess, for a few weeks. So I'm wondering if he's going to lack a little bit of strength when it comes to the run to really be up near the front. Like, someone like Joe Malloy, like, he's smaller, but he's really strong. Like, I don't know exactly how he rides a bike. Like, you see, like, Eric Lagerstrom is really good at descending. Like, is Joe on the bike handling wise? Like, can he at least stay with everybody, or is he going to make up some time or lose some time on the descents? That's kind of those things you have to consider because it is pretty technical out there. Like Ben Canute, I bet you will just crush this bike course.
Yeah, I mean, we also have to mention, I mean, Kevin Collington just finished third at Ironman Brazil, so he could be a little tired, but he's a lighter guy that seems to have some really good strength for a light guy. So,
He on the podium or fourth last year. I mean he's done well at this race and he knows this race. So that's important too. And he's got no pressure, just finished Brazil. He's been
he's
resting but
done.
keeping moving.
He's
Right.
done till
Like he's just
October.
like, yeah, I mean, he's just like, oh, whatever, like good hit out. And like all of a sudden you do okay. So
Yeah, I mean,
we
he could go all the way out, go all out at the swim and the bike and see where he is. I mean, if he's in contention, he's in contention. If not, then at the end of his day, it doesn't matter.
yep, yep. So what about the women? I mean, this is a real interesting start list, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah Haskins, you know, she, you know, obviously she was this specialty like Cam Dye was when they had the Lifetime series, right? Now she's, you know,
Yeah.
made her way to the 70.3. She's been a pretty good, you know, 70.3 athlete. Um, you throw in Katie Zafiris just got her, you know, what was it, 2 weeks, week ago that she got the announcement she made, you know, the Olympic team after that long drawn out process. So I'm sure she's on a major high right now, but obviously she raced really hard at Yokohama and all her focus was on Yokohama. So where is her fitness, mental state right now, really?
Yeah, I bet you mentally she's ready to just have a good day and give it all she has, but she might not be like super sharp and cuz she's getting ready. I think she and Tommy are flying to France that night, Sunday night after the race to kind of start the build towards Rio. So, I'm sure she's had a little bit of downtime, but I'm sure she's been training, but maybe just not quite at the intensity she was. I mean, it was a big build up to Yokohama, and that took a lot of emotional energy. So, I mean, I expect her. I mean, she's a great swimmer and she's a good, her cycling is improving and I'm sure she'll be good on the hills and she's a strong runner. Um, I'm sure she'll be up there for sure. I mean, you have Heather Jackson. She won here in 2013. Yeah, there's the super cold year. So she's won here before. She knows the course. She's not afraid to hit those hills really hard on the descents and everything. The only thing with her is she's going to be behind out of the swim, and Sarah Haskins. I still think this distance is her bread and butter. Like, I mean, she did great at St. Anthony's at the end of April. I mean, she just crushed it. So I think Sarah Haskins is going to be out in front, and she's got to be to me a heavy favorite.
Yeah, I mean, also Katie should be right with her, I would think, or very close out of the swim. Katie's obviously a good swimmer. But Magali is on the start list. I think she saw the excitement that this race brought last year when Eric was racing. So this will be her first year racing, right? Or at least in
Ye-
a while, I think.
No, she raced last year. She was fifth last year. She didn't have the
Okay.
greatest of performances. She wasn't super happy with it. So I think she's ready to come back and do a bit better. And she descends like crazy. She's not scared. So she'll be moving her way up on the bike. I mean, she's going to be out probably a little behind. I think someone else to look out for is Holly Lawrence. She just got second at St. George. She can swim. She loves to bike like all out. I'm just wondering, like, does she have kind of that firepower that you need for short course? I mean, she did used to do ITU, but she's mostly been focusing on 70.3s. So we'll see. But I mean, if she's with Haskins or whatever, like out of the water, like Holly will grit her teeth and not let her go. Um, so
Didn't Holly race St. Anthony's? Is that correct?
no, mm-mm.
What did Holly race after? Wait, that was somebody else. I might be confusing
She's not
somebody.
raced since
She has
St.
not raced
George.
since St. George. Okay.
No, and that was a huge performance for her, and I mean, not confidence booster, but she ran really well off the bike, and um, she's just an aggressive racer, and she's not afraid to put it all out there. So I expect to be up there mixing it up. And you have to mention, like, Lauren Goss is your highest returning finisher from last year. She got second to Ashley Gentle last year by just like 13 seconds. She was third at St. Anthony's at the end of April. Not a great performance at Wildflower. So I just am interested, like, has she found her form again? You know, I think fitness, you got to have some durability. So I'm wondering, does she have that yet? Like, you know, you got to have to be able to run really fast off the bike. You have to be super fit. So has she had the time to get that fitness? Question mark with her.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch this, or I guess follow this race. I'm not sure if they're gonna have live coverage or not.
I think they're Snapchatting if you do that. I don't do that, so I don't know. um, we have not mentioned Leslie Patterson, the Xterra World Champion. So this is kind of like right up her alley, like hills and trails and stairs and I would expect to see her moving up during the bike. She'll be behind out of the wall, but she is someone who just bikes and runs like crazy fast. So she'll be coming up too. And Lindsay Giordanic, you know, she's done this race before. She's finished fourth, so she knows it as well.
Yeah, she's a fast ITU girl. So if some speed needs to happen, it's there.
Yep. So I don't know. I mean, Sarah Haskins is still kind of my favorite because once she gets out in front on these races, it's hard to seed her. But I do know that running downhill is sometimes not. It wasn't last time in her wheelhouse, and she did lose quite a bit of time. Almost got run down by Rinny when the year she won because she didn't run that well downhill in the last there's 4 miles, you get kind of the top of the course, and then it's 2 miles kind of downhill and then 2 miles across Chrissy Field. So I mean, there's time to be made up on that downhill. I mean, it's usually pretty hard, but you know, if you're not afraid to fling yourself downhill like crazy, then you can make up some time.
Let's make some picks for this race. We haven't made any picks in a while, and this seems to be an interesting start list.
Okay, you go first.
All right, you want to start with women or men?
Your choice.
All right, we'll start with the women then. I'm gonna go. Zafiris, Haskins, Leslie Patterson.
Okay, what about the men?
I am going. Oh man, the men. Die. Potts, Canute.
Okay. All right, I'll start with the women. I'm going to go Haskins, Jackson, and Lawrence. And for the men, I'm going to go Canute, Malloy, and Potts.
Wow, that was just very different. I think we're usually like kind of similar. Like we just totally different on all that stuff.
Yeah, which will be interesting. One of us is going to be very right, and one of us is going to be very wrong.
All right, let's move on to the fourth Ironman Regional Championship of the year. Was switched from Ironman Australia now to Ironman Cairns. So let's a little information on the course.
It is a wetsuit swim in the ocean, and then the bike course is kind of too loopy. Like you kind of start in one spot and then finish in another, but it's like two loops around the same thing. It's along the coast, so it's rolling hills, and then the run is flat, and I think it loops, but I can't remember for sure. Flat, and a lot of spectator support.
All right, let's start with the females because I think it's a interesting but short debate. I think the last time I looked, we might have a little over 10 starters.
Yeah. Okay. So Liz Blatchford is out. Got one, two. I don't know if Rebecca Keats out.
She
I
is
don't know
flying
if
there.
Kate. Okay, there you go. Kate Bevilacqua, I'm a little. She's on the Japan list as well, and then she tweeted that she was flying, I think, to North America. If she's racing, we know Kirsty John's off. Yeah, I think we have 10 to 12 starters at a championship 4,000 point race.
So I actually went back and looked at Brazil real fast, and I think there was 11 finishers for Brazil. So one female didn't get points or money. Well, I guess money.
Paid.
So
Yeah.
there. I mean, if there's 10 starters and 10 finishers, then everybody gets paid at least something. But yeah, it's an interesting debate, just because the start list is not deep.
No.
Gladford
I mean,
with Liz not racing, it obviously takes a big name right off the list. So there's some good
I mean,
points available to a lot of a lot of athletes that need points.
yeah. I mean, so I think before Liz was off the start list, to me it was like a three woman race. Now I feel like Jody and Lindsay Corbin are your heavy favorites, and they both race, I think, really differently. Jody's going to be out in front on the swim and out in front on the bike, and then she is someone who sometimes gets caught on the run. And then Lindsay Corbin is the opposite. She's going to be behind out of the swim, make her moves towards the end of the bike and onto the run. So, was just second at Port Macquarie at the beginning of May and had a really good race and especially a really well run. So I'm wondering if she's starting, and if she is starting, how she's going to feel. And then Rebecca Keat, she passed out at like mile 8, Texas. So that she can get up near the front. The question is going to be kind of staying power, I think, with her. Like, what's going on there? Is it nutritional? Like, sometimes she has problems with her calf. So, maybe a Swallow and Corbin battle, unless Michelle Bremer recovered really, really well from Port Macquarie. But I have a feeling she might be a little bit underdone or not recovered or something, you know?
I mean, do you feel like you feel like Corbin has a shot at taking down Swallow? Or are you just saying it's a two-person race just because, I mean, they're obviously above everybody else, but I mean, to me, Swallow's on a
yeah, I
different
think
level than anybody else on the start list.
Yeah, but sometimes like Jody has problems like in Ironmans with nutrition. So she can fade the end of the run, and Lindsay has shown that she can run really well. Especially when it gets hot, and it can get a little bit hot in Cairns and be humid. So I think potentially Corbin could run down Swallow. I think it's like a given. I mean, Jody's had some good races. I mean, she's been fourth in Kona, so but in the top 10 in Kona too. The question is, does Lindsay have kind of the really, really kind of depth of fitness that you need to finish really strong in an Ironman? Because she's coming back from injury, so this might be kind of the first Ironman in a build. So it might be a little bit off towards the end of the run, like she might fade where she wouldn't usually, because this is her first marathon after her injury.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for those two. And then, like you said, Rebecca Keat, it'll be interesting for her because she DNF'd Texas, so now she's over here for this regional championship. So I mean, she was obviously, I think she was like top 3, top 4 area when she dropped out. I'm pretty sure, or at least started, falling back. But she put herself in the position to be there and make it a race for her. So should be interesting to see where she is in the run.
Yeah, yeah, I think we'll see how that comes around. All right, so men, I mean, you have Luke McKenzie, who's your defending champion and put up that awesome performance at Western Australia in December. So he, I think, a favorite for this. And Tim Van Berkel just did really well at South Africa, do this race. So where is he physically? I don't know.
Yeah. Obviously the never aging Cameron Brown.
Yep.
He's on another start list, so he's racing, and he's always a threat to be there at the end of the race. A couple people coming over from that did Texas that are here is Matt Hansen, that faded on the run. Jordan Rapp, that faded on the run.
Yeah.
They're both on the
Yeah.
list.
Didn't Jordan say he had like a stomach bug or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're both there. Will Clark, didn't he just do Brazil and didn't do too well, or he DNF'd, something like that? So he's over here, it looks like, or at least he's on the start list.
I mean, Tim Don's still on the start list. I don't think he's racing.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about him. I think he's done. He's in Kona, so he's going back.
Yeah. Brad Caulfield is on this list. He was supposed to do Port Macquarie, and then he didn't he like randomly trip over a dog or something, and
And he needs a good result.
yeah, and he tore his labrum.
Yeah.
You can't. That's going to be interesting. I don't like. Where is he with that? That's a big injury.
Somebody else we mentioned a couple weeks ago that didn't race is Cameron, number 35.
Oh yeah, Cameron Moore.
So we talked to him last time. We haven't talked to him since, but he was all game about getting to Kona, and seems he would need a win to get enough points, basically get it, the AQ.
Yeah. Or I mean, what 3,500 is usually. So maybe if he got second and then did a good 70.3 somewhere, it's going to be tough. We'll see. This might be a process for him.
Yeah.
Vettel is someone to look at. He's going to be out in front on the swim, and then he's not afraid to kind of light up the bike. And he had a great race at Port Macquarie. I think he ended up on the podium, and that's kind of been a really good result for him. He's had a couple years that have been a little bit down, so he's probably gained some confidence, and it'll just be, whether he can kind of get back into really good fitness in a month, because you have to recover and then build back up and then race. So we'll see how that goes for him.
Talking about somebody else who's at the front of the swim and then hasn't had the greatest of years is Pete Jacobs is on the start list.
Yeah.
So is this? I think this is his last year. I think. Don't quote me.
Yes,
last year of getting back to Kona with just finishing a race as a past champion.
Yeah, it is. I believe that. I think he said that in an interview.
So he's on the start list.
He better get his ass in gear. He's got to prove it to me before I say, "Oh yeah, Pete Jacobs is a favorite," because lately he's been not so great.
I mean, the start list is got serious. There's 35 bib numbers. Probably 5 of them at least won't start the race. I mean, there's some good people, obviously. I mean, there's past Ironman champions, good Kona performers on the start list too. It just doesn't seem to have the overall firepower. I guess maybe if Tim Don was racing too, but we already know basically he's out.
Yeah. I think, you'll have your kind of regular names up front. I think Luke McKenzie's dialed in for this. Cam Brown is strong. Tim Van Berkel, he is a racer. He's a gamer. I think Matt Hansen, he's got to do well. He'll be moving up during the run, hopefully in a conservative and smart manner. And So and, you know, he did well at New Zealand. I just think it was so much pressure at Texas, and he just got really caught up in like having to result of 2015, and it's just like just go race and do as fast as you can and see where you end up.
I feel Matt Hansen's going to have a good race. I think you're right. I think they had a lot of pressure on him to Texas. He comes to the Woodlands and trains a lot. Obviously, his coach is here. So after obviously a great race the year before, too much stuff going on. He had that penalty. Just a lot of stuff going on in the race and the bike and just being in Texas. So I think getting away, like you said, he had a great race in New Zealand. Just needs a good performance. I'm thinking top 5, top 3 area. Doesn't need to win to get back to Kona. Don't quote me on that, but I think he's pretty close to that area. So I feel like that's where he's shooting for. Obviously, he would like the win, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to me, Luke's kind of a favorite, and I know he's been keying for this race. So he's one of the ambassadors. So hard to look past Luke, I think.
Yeah, agreed. All right.
All right. So
Let's move
come over to
over
Boulder.
to Boulder. The what do they call this last year? Like the championship.
Championships.
Yeah, Boulder World Championship where all the pros live in North America.
Yeah, if I was a pro, I would not travel up to this race because it's at altitude and everybody's there. So you're going to get blown out.
All right. So we have anything on the course? It's just a standard course around their lake, right? They swim in the preserve.
The reservoir, yeah. Wetsuit, and then it's going to be pretty hot weather-wise. It looked like kind of 80s, dry. There's one hill on the bike, but it's pretty flat and fast. I mean, you saw that with the splits last year. It was like everybody was kind of low twos, and then the run is around the reservoir on trail. Should be fast.
Yeah, should be fast, especially with some names on the list. So Tim Don's on this list. Not sure if he's racing at all or which list he's racing. We got Joe Gambles, Mark Bosted, Richie Cunningham, Sam Appleton, and just plenty of names on the list. Obviously, a lot of the people that live in Boulder are there.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Gambles has won here, I think, 4 times, and he just had a great race in St. George. And, after a kind of injury plagued 2015, I think that was a really good result for him. So I think he'll be kind of looking to back that up, and he's won here before. So it's hard to, him is kind of being a little bit of a favorite, maybe. I mean, Mark Bosted was 3rd last year. And then Sam Appleton was just 2nd in Chattanooga and kind of showed like he can ride with the likes of Keenlay. So I think you're going to have quite a battle of people who probably train and see each other all the time in Boulder.
Talking about who can ride, David is racing. He threw down that sub 2. I still remember last year at Texas. But I saw he has having issues with his bike fit or something. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, the 165 cranks.
When I saw that, I was like, dude, like you went sub 2. Like, are you like, why would you change your bike fit if you weren't like, if you were riding so well and now he changed some stuff up? I don't know. Maybe it was to help his run though, too. So obviously there's, different things that happen there. Somebody I'm interested in is Von Berg, number 24. He had a really good St. Anthony's race.
Yeah, and he was just 3rd at Rev 3 last weekend too. So the question is like, how is he going to do 70.3 wise?
Yeah, should be interesting. Definitely we know he has some speed, it looks like.
Yeah, I think just a note on the swim, Rafael Goncalves, I don't know how to say his last name, but Rafa from Brazil, number 33, he is going to be first out of the water. He has had the fastest swim at Kona out of everybody like the last couple of years. So he's super strong Brazilian swimmer, and he trains up there in Boulder with Siri.
Is this his first year as a pro or?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so. Yep.
Well, inside
So I
information.
don't know how else yeah, I don't know how he'll finish outside of that. But he will be first out of the water.
You're calling the first out of the water. You hear it right here.
Yep. Yep. And Matt Charbot's on the list. He's had a kind of not, he flatted at St. George. So kind of look for him maybe. I mean, he trains up in Colorado. So he's used to the altitude. Leon Griffin. I don't think Paul Matthews is going to be racing. He just got fourth in Brazil. So we'll see. Chris McDonald's on the list. Justin Metzler. It's a full house for sure. Someone else I always look at is Steve Mantel. He's on the list, I
Who?
believe. Number 29. He's the
Steve
new pro this
Mantel.
year.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
raced
he was on
Cairns.
the Everyman Jack team a couple years ago. He finished fifth overall at Escape from Alcatraz he was an age grouper. And he's, been, I think he was at Oceanside for violating that
Yeah,
speed limit thing,
he did.
but pretty well at St. George. I mean, he's kind of moving up. So, he trains and lives in Boulder. So this might be a good race for him.
All right, let's move on to the female list. Female list has a couple good names on it too. We have Kay is on the list with Ellie Salthouse and Jenny Seymour, Katie Blakemore.
Yeah, Katie, she just did Texas, didn't she? So I'm wondering, well, Alicia did Texas, and she's doing this, so champion. I'm curious to see how she bounces back after her
Her first Ironman.
Ironman at Texas. Yeah, I mean, Ellie Salthouse has been racing really well. She was fifth at St. George. Jenny Seymour was St. George. I mean, I would look to maybe one of those two to maybe take if Kay is a little bit tired from Texas.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how she will recover from Texas from being her first and coming here to try to defend her title. I mean, I don't think she's going to skip a beat, but if she does, there's definitely some ladies that will be able to step up in her spot.
Yeah, I mean, I see where I would see her fading is maybe like on the run, like just because after an Ironman, you might not be able to run for a bit, and then trying to get back that speed for a half Ironman might be a bit tough. I mean, she might get run down or have people closer to her. Like she just might not have that oomph on the bike that you need and that she usually has.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think you're right. I think she might just not have that extra gear that people might just be able to go by her because they have that extra gear because they've been training for the shorter stuff and not, the Ironman now. She's building back up from the Ironman.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, the list is not huge. So I think it'll probably battle between Kay, Salthouse, Seymour, Leslie Smith might be moving up on the run. Christine Hammond has done well there. She was sixth at Texas, so we'll see how she recovers too. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that.
All right. Well, let's move on to race 70.3 in Canada, Victoria. We have, let's start with the little information on the course, if there's anything crazy going on there.
No, I've done the race when it wasn't a WTC race. I'm in the lake, and then the bike is rolling hills. I mean, it's got some good climbing in it actually. And then the run is awesome. It's just this trail that goes around the lake. It's all soft, not like sand, but like just crushed like wood chips and stuff. It's beautiful and it's shaded. So it's a great run. It's a 2-loop run. Hotels have raced here. They raced here the year that I did it, 2007. So they know this course and they're kind of going back, I guess, because they lived in Victoria for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting with the men right off the top, I think three of the favorites are all from Canada between Wortell, Jeff Simons, and Taylor Reed. And then you have Jared Shoemaker taking, I guess he's making another start at a 70.3 distance after his first at the Raleigh.
Yeah, he is. I read that he's trying to get enough points to qualify for the world. So, yep, he's making his start, and I mean, how he responds, that could be good or very bad.
As far
And
as
you
the
see DeVee this list too. So I don't know where he's racing or if he's racing.
Yeah, the people on multiple start lists. I think we had a big Twitter debate about that last week, but we'll move on.
Yep.
Females, I would say, like I said again, you got Heather Wortell, Rachel McBride, from Canada that look to be right off the top, top two contenders.
And this is Rachel's first race back after a broken foot. So see, she hasn't raced for 13 months, and I know she's probably chomping at the bit to get after it. So I think she'll be riding really hard. I mean, she'll swim really hard too, but she loves to hit that bike. And I think coming off the bike, it'll probably be her and Heather near the front. And then I think Heather's got a little bit more on the bike. And you got to watch out for Melindy Elmore, number 35, to kind of be coming up on that run. She ran through people at Oceanside, and then she got hypothermia at St. George. So I'm sure she wants to bounce back after that. So she's my pick for a sneaky podium.
I remember you mentioned that about St. George, and so it'll be interesting to see what she can do here.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you're gonna have a Canadian sweep on the podium for the women. I think it might be like Wortell, McBride, Elmore. There, I just
Could
gave my
have a
picks.
sweep on the men's podium too.
Yeah, you could have. We'll see how Jeff swims after that broken elbow, and then Taylor got that flat in Raleigh last week, so I'm sure he's ready to go. And then you have Elliot Holtham. He's done some good stuff. So yeah, it could be a Canadian sweep on both sides.
All right. Well, that's all I got to say about that start list. You have anything
Yep.
else?
No, that's it.
All right. Let's move on to across the east to Eagleman, Maryland area. We have, I think it's a pretty flat course, right, Emily? What else do we have?
Yeah, it's flat and hot.
Flat and hot. Good. I know they just got a bunch of rain or the winds because that hurricane, tropical storm, whatever you want to call it, depression, just blew through that area, I think, this past week.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the start list, I think I know I talked to Cody in St. George, and he is keen to defend. And I think he's got a good shot at it. Victor Semenstev will definitely be trying to run him down. But other than that, Beals is probably the class of the field.
Yeah, definitely doesn't look like a great start list, but we will see what happens in that race.
Yeah. And then the women's side, I'm not quite sure that Laurel is racing. And then Jen Spielander is coming back from her back injury, but I think she's healthier. So if she's racing, she'll be out in front of the swim. I tried to get a feel as to whether Carrie Lester was racing because she's real strong, but I couldn't really tell from her. I think she's really getting ready for Challenge Roth, so I don't know for sure if she'll be there. And then Ashley Clifford, she's a strong runner, not a very strong, so she's someone to look out for if people start faltering in the heat.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. We got two races in Europe. We got one in Italy, and I think just a key point there is Nicola Spierig is racing there.
Yep. And then UK, Staffordshire.
Yep, which is interesting because it is a P750 race. And the start lists are obviously pretty slim there too. So some good points for those people racing there.
Yeah, I mean, you got some good United Kingdom athletes like Joe Skipper and Lucy lining up, and then good old Brad Williams is over there, so I'm sure he'll be ready to lay it down.
All right. That's any other last tidbits?
No, that I mean, good Lord, that was like 8 races.
Well, we also have Pacific Grove. We forgot to mention that. That's another local California race that you're racing, and Tommy Zafiris will actually be racing Saturday and then going to race Alcatraz on Sunday.
Yep, it's Tommy's favorite race. He would not miss it, so he's doing the double 2 days in a row. So he'll be down there, and I'll be down there. It's draft legal, super fun, and always a good scenic race. And we get to swim through kelp, and yeah, it's great.
Well, thanks everybody for joining in. The season has obviously kicked off in a full gear, so join us again next week.
All right, thanks everyone.